Have you ever wondered how much of our brain we actually use? It's a question that sparked curiosity for decades, and you might have heard the often quoted statistic that humans only use a mere 10% of their brain. This notion has been bounced around in media, movies, and even in our everyday conversations. But let's get one thing straight. This is a myth, not a fact. Scientists and neurologists have debunked this claim time and time again, asserting that we utilize much more than just a tenth of our brain. Every part of our brain has a purpose and is in use at some point during the day. So, the idea that 80 to 90% of our brain is just idling away is simply not true. But this raises another question, doesn't it? So, if it's not 10%, then how much of our brain do we actually use? Science has a different story to tell about our brain usage. Contrary to popular belief, scientific research has shown that we use virtually every part of our brain. That's right, no area of the brain is left idle. Most of the brain is active almost all the time, even when we're relaxing or sleeping. This constant activity is necessary for our survival and functioning, as every region of the brain has a specific role to play. Let's take a brief tour of the different areas of the brain. The frontal lobes, located at the front of the brain, are responsible for thinking, memory, behavior, and movement. Here we find the primary motor cortex, a key player in planning, control, and execution of voluntary movements. Next up, we have the parietal lobes, located at the top of the brain. These are your sensory processing centers, dealing with touch, taste, and spatial positioning. The temporal lobes, found on the sides of the brain, are involved in processing auditory information and are integral to the formation of memories. Then there's the occipital lobe at the back of the brain, which is all about vision. It interprets the images received from the eyes and turns them into something we understand. And let's not forget about the cerebellum, located at the base of the brain, that takes care of balance, coordination, and speech. Now the limbic system, tucked away within the brain, is our emotional command center, dealing with emotions, long-term memories, and smell. The brainstem, connecting the brain and the spinal cord, controls automatic functions such as heart rate, blood pressure, and breathing. So you see, every part of the brain has a job. They all work together in harmony, communicating via billions of neurons to enable us to experience and interact with the world around us. There is no idle space, no wasted real estate in the brain. Every nook and cranny is hard at work, contributing to the magnificent symphony that is human consciousness. Clearly, we use more than just 10% of our brains. So, we use all of our brain, but does that mean we're using its full capacity? Well, let's take a moment to ponder the concept of brain capacity and potential. You see, the human brain is akin to a supercomputer, the most complex one known to mankind. It's estimated that it can hold about 1 petabyte of information. That's roughly the same as 20 million 4-drawer filing cabinets filled with text. Now that's some serious storage space, isn't it? But here's the catch. Just because we have this incredible capacity, it doesn't necessarily mean we're using it to its fullest. It's as if we have a sports car, but never drive it faster than 20 miles per hour. Sure, we're using the car, but are we really harnessing its full potential? This brings us to the idea of brain training. You've probably heard about it. Games, puzzles, mental exercises, all promising to boost your brain power. But can they really help us maximize our brain's potential? Well, the jury's still out on that one. Some studies suggest that these exercises can indeed improve certain aspects of cognition, like memory, attention, or even IQ. Others, however, argue that the benefits are limited and very specific. That is, training your brain with puzzles might make you better at puzzles, but it won't necessarily make you better at other cognitive tasks. So, while it's certainly possible to improve aspects of your brain's performance, it's unlikely that we can unlock some hidden, untapped reservoir of mental prowess just by playing a few brain games. The brain isn't a muscle that gets stronger with exercise. It's a complex organ that adapts and changes based on how we use it. In a nutshell, yes, we use all of our brain, but whether we're using it to its full potential is a different question entirely. It's a fascinating area of research and one that we're still learning about. While we use all of our brain, there's always room for improvement. So, let's summarize what we've learned today. We started our journey by debunking the popular myth that we only use 10% of our brain. This myth, although widely accepted, is far from the truth. We've discovered that every part of our brain has a purpose and function. It doesn't matter whether we're sleeping, reading a book, or running a marathon. Our brains are always active, always working. Next, we delved into the science behind brain usage. We found out that we use different parts of our brain for different activities. For instance, when we're solving a math problem, we're using the areas of our brain associated with logic and reasoning. When we're listening to music, we're engaging the parts of our brain connected to auditory processing and emotional response. In essence, our brain is a complex network of interconnected regions, each contributing to our daily activities. Then, we talked about brain capacity and potential. The human brain is a marvel of nature, capable of learning, adapting, and evolving. It has the capacity to store a vast amount of information and the potential to create, innovate, and solve complex problems. While it's true that we don't use all of our brain at the same time, we do use all parts of it throughout the course of a day. Now, the beauty of the human brain lies not only in its complexity, but also in its potential for growth. The concept of neuroplasticity teaches us that our brains are not static, but dynamic. They can change and adapt, learning new skills and overcoming challenges. This means that there's always room to push our brain's potential, to learn more, do more, and be more. Remember, we use all of our brain, not just 10%, and there's always room to push our brain's potential. So, keep learning, keep growing, and keep pushing your brain to its fullest potential.